17,048 first application IDs, all uncollected. As you can see, as I've said, the biggest problem is the eThekwini Metro. That is the biggest district where most IDs are not collected. Almost half of all the uncollected IDs are in eThekwini.
Home Affairs pulls out all stops to make sure no voter is unable to register because they don't have an ID. Minister Aaron Motsoaledi takes us through everything you need to know and is here to take whatever questions you may have.
The Commission declares that it is ready to receive potential voters at registration stations across the country over the weekend. A total of 23,151 registration stations will be in operation from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. on both Saturday and Sunday.
Independent Electoral Commission, not only is it ready, it says, but it will also be putting its new toys to the test. IEC Commissioner Musutu Merba talks us through their preparations and plans. That and more in tonight's edition of The Watchdog, which starts right now. The Electoral Commission has urged South Africans to come out in large numbers and take advantage of this weekend's voter registration. The IEC says its voting stations across the country will be open on the 18th and 19th of September from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. to enable those wishing to vote to register. For this weekend, voters will only need their identity document to register for the November 1 poll.
The Electoral Commission declares that it is ready to receive potential voters at registration stations.
It's all systems go for voter registration weekend. The IEC says it's ready to receive voters. This weekend is the last opportunity for those wishing to participate in the upcoming local government elections to register.
Participation in the local government election is important as municipal councils play a crucial role in providing services that directly affect people on a daily basis. Electoral participation, which is impossible without registration, provides an opportunity to shape the local affairs of communities.
This weekend, the Commission will open more than 23,000 stations across the country with at least 48,000 officials on the ground. The country has less than 2 months to hit the polls.
Special vote in these elections are going to assume heightened importance. We need to decongest voting stations by way of special votes.
The Commission also welcomed the decision by the Department of Basic Education to amend this year's final matric examination timetable to accommodate the elections.
This gesture from the Minister will enable the young voters who are writing these examinations to participate in the elections.
Meanwhile, Home Affairs offices will be open this coming weekend to allow people to fetch their identity documents so that they can register. The IEC also announced that COVID-19 protocols will be observed throughout its stations. Nhlanhla Khatlane, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Our first guest is IEC Commissioner Musutu Merba. We do invite you, the viewer that is, to ask whatever questions that you may have. You can comment or raise concerns using the Twitter handle at the Watchdog SABC. Sir, good evening. Thanks very much for your time. We're talking about 48,899 registration officials. We're talking about 23,151 registration stations. But, of course, you are not new to this.
Good evening, Vuyo, and good evening to your viewers. Every election is very unique. and you can't bank on a previous one to say this one that's coming, it's in the bag. Doing so will be very risky. But coming back to these elections, indeed, we will have just over 50,000 people by now. When we spoke yesterday, or when we addressed the media yesterday, we had 48,000. We have areas where we noted that we could do with additional staff members to take care of what we expect as volumes and reserve personnel. We will open 23,151 voting stations across the country. We will open at 8 in the morning and close at 5 in the evening. And we are very grateful to the Department of Home Affairs that they will be opening their offices both on Saturday and Sunday in line with the working hours that we would have, so that no one that is coming to register who says, I have had a mishap or this accident with my documents, would not have the opportunity to get a document to register and then to vote on the 1st of November.
Now, you've had to train your staff, and for the first time they had to complete their training online. How easy or difficult was that?
Well, I guess, all of those that we have, just over 50,000 that we'll have for this weekend, would have done well. They needed to attain at least 80% in that exam to proceed to the other part of the exam, and we are grateful they did so. I imagine for an ordinary citizen, someone might say, it's not something I do every day, but for those of us that have the privilege of doing it every day, it's something we need to be sure that everyone that works or that will be serving citizens on Saturday and Sunday understands our business pretty well, and that's what we are asking them to do.
And you'll also, of course, be displaying or putting to the test some of your new toys. Talk to us about that.
Well, we had the scanner. We called it the Zip. This was a portable barcode scanning unit that was introduced for the first time in 1998 in the Republic. That equipment has served us well. We refreshed it once before, but now on this occasion we have refreshed it almost completely. We have new generation equipment that has more than scanning capacity. It will ensure that we are able to register people without paper, paperlessly. But it will also, most importantly, ensure that we are able to harvest essential data that is required on the voters' roll, addresses of persons that we need. And for an election like this in particular, it is important to have those details immediately. We would not need to capture them after the fact and then to take a long process before we have the voters' roll ready. You will recall that in this instance, we will be registering citizens on Saturday and Sunday. And on Monday, a proclamation will be published, gazetted, and the voters' roll will close, and we will immediately close the voters' roll with all of the addresses that we have harvested over the weekend onto the voters' roll. This is something we have hitherto not been able to do.
Okay, and what is expected of people who will be walking into those stations tomorrow? What must they bring? What are they expected to do or know even?
I imagine people are going to wear a big smile. They will find us ready for them at the voting stations. They will find our staff very well geared in protective equipment. There will be social distancing. They're expected to put on their masks. They will then be coming with their identity documents, and that's all they need. They need to present themselves there with their identity documents. They will be scanned, and as soon as they are scanned, they will then get a confirmation that they have transacted with us. If they have chosen to have that information SMS to them, it will be. If it is on email, it will be emailed to them. That's all they need to do. We do not expect them to be very long at the voting stations, and so we expect the process to be fairly smooth. We will be taking care that all voting stations or registration stations across the country, rather, are going to be strictly managed so that we do not spread COVID-19, as it were.
Do I need to produce proof of address?
No. You will have to give us your address. There are many people in this country that don't have like a formal proof of address. They may not have a municipal account. They may not have, something similar, a utilities bill. But they must provide us with their address details. Those details are important in terms of how we allocate them to a segment of the voters' roll in the municipality where they live.
Okay. Commissioner Musutu Merba, he is, of course, going to stay with us so that he can take some of your questions and comments and concerns. But we are now going to speak to the Minister of Home Affairs, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, who's going to join us. That's when we return in a moment. Don't go away. Many Home Affairs Department offices across the country will also be open this weekend for those who need to pick up outstanding ID documents or acquire temporary ones. Minister of Home Affairs Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi joins us now to talk us through what they have planned for this weekend. Remember, you can ask him questions, you can comment or raise concerns. Our Twitter handle is @the-Watchdog SABC. Good evening, Minister. Thanks very much for your time. A huge task you're going to undertake this weekend, ensuring that no one gets disenfranchised because they don't have an ID, they have lost it or they haven't collected it. You have staff across the country ready and willing to help people tomorrow and on Sunday.
Yes, good evening. Vuyo, let me also greet Ndade Moepia there. Yes, Vuyo, indeed, we are going to deploy 3,039 staff members throughout the length and breadth of the country. And we're going to be opening Home Affairs offices for the 2 days in provinces like Gauteng and Western Cape. There are banks which will also be opened where people can also take IDs. 2 of such banks in Gauteng will actually even open on Sundays. So it's all systems go, we're ready.
Now, what about, because your systems are dependent, I know this is a question that was asked earlier, that what happens in the event you have, God forbid, electricity, fails us, that happens in this country. What contingency measures have you put in place for those, for such, if something like that happens?
Yes, thank you. There is a lot of background noise there, if you could do something about it.
Okay.
Yes, our biggest fear is actually not electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me?
What would be your biggest fear, Minister?
Yes, our biggest fear is not electricity, because in most of our offices which are modernized, we have got generators.
Mm-hmm.
And we are also going to deploy mobile trucks which have got built-in generators in their engine. And they will be parked next to offices with no generators, which are much fewer. Our biggest fear is what we call system downtown, where all the systems which we obtain mostly from CETA just get offline and none of the computers can work. And it has happened several times. It is it's the only thing that scares us for tomorrow. Otherwise, we're ready. But to try and deal with it, we have deployed 49 IT technicians all over the country to try and deal with the matter, but we're just hoping for the best. But as far as ESCOM is concerned, that is the list of our problems.
So that would be the only concern that you have. Other than that, you are more than ready.
Oh, yes. That's the only concern up to so far. We have done a drilling exercise for 7 hours yesterday with all the managers of provinces, where they were informing us who they are deploying where, what's going to happen. We asked lots of questions. So our only fear, if for some reason or the other the systems can go down, because they do sometimes do so to the detriment of our clients and to their anger. And tomorrow it will be a really wrong day for the systems to go down.
How big is the problem of people who have applied for their IDs but aren't or haven't collected them?
You'll realize, Vuyo, that I've always reported this to the Portfolio Committee in Parliament whenever I appear in front of them. Last month, it was 418,000, and I think by making a bit of noise, people came to collect. As of yesterday, it was 370,000 IDs that were not collected. And I need to correct something which I heard. I'm not sure whether it was publicly broadcast, but I saw it on the screen when we were studying, where they were quoting me as saying eThekwini is the biggest metro where most IDs are not collected. I was speaking about KwaZulu-Natal. eThekwini is the biggest area where IDs are not collected, only in KwaZulu-Natal. If we talk of the whole country, the biggest problem is Tshwane at 30,000 IDs, 700 and something IDs, 30,762, which are uncollected, followed by the Cape Metro at 22,354 IDs, and then third is eThekwini at 22,319 uncollected IDs. But overall in the whole country is 370,000 IDs.
Well, what do you think can be done, Minister, to get people to go and collect their IDs? I mean, 418,000 is a lot of people.
Yeah, that was last month. I'm saying now we are dealing with 370,000. We are doing a lot already, Vio. For instance, after you apply for an ID, it gets ready between 5 and 13 days. 5 and 13 days it will be ready. We then send you an SMS to tell you that your ID is ready. You can go, or you must go to the office where you have applied for it, because we can't dispatch it anywhere. It has to be the office where you applied for it, because you are going to use your fingerprint to collect it, because not everybody can collect it, and you can't send somebody to collect it on your behalf. So we send such SMSs, but despite that, we get very frustrated when they don't get collected. So what we have done now, we have advertised in all the SABC radio stations. 3 times a day, there will be an advert in SABC radio stations in all the languages, advising people to come and collect their IDs. We have also put adverts in a few newspapers, but what we have done, we have reissued the SMSs. We have sent SMSs again to 370,000 clients to come and collect their IDs.
Okay. Minister Motsoaledi is, of course, staying with us. He'll be taking your questions, your comments, your concerns. But before we do that, let's do a quick roundup of some of the provinces our team of journalists visited today, starting in the Western Cape, where almost 1,600 voting stations will open across the province over the weekend. The Independent Electoral Commission in the province says there will be 38 temporary sites where no permanent structures are available.
There are currently just over 3 million registered voters in the Western Cape. The IEC says it's hoping to increase this number, especially among the youth. To date, some 46,000 of the country's 200,000 online registrations have been in the Western Cape.
In order to cast your ballot on the 1st of November, you need to be on the voters' roll and thus registered by the 20th of September. The 20th of September is the date on which the National Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs will be proclaiming the national elections, which automatically, in terms of the law, means that the voters' roll will then close. Any person registering after that date, while they will still be on the voters' roll, will, however, not be allowed to participate in the elections on the 1st of November, but may participate in subsequent or future elections.
Hendrickse says Home Affairs offices will be open across the province this weekend for ID collections or applications for temporary ID certificates. While proof of address is not needed, voters must register in the voting district in which they live. All COVID-19 protocols will be observed. Pop-up vaccination sites will be established at several sites for those wishing to be vaccinated.
The Provincial Department of Health has been rolling out vaccination opportunities through their local venues and also pop-up sites. In cooperation with the Western Cape IEC, we have identified 17 registration venues where the department will be setting up their vaccination pop-up sites over this weekend for anyone wishing to take opportunity to vaccinate. It is important to note that this initiative is aimed at the broader health process, and the IEC stresses that a voter does not need to be vaccinated in order to register or to vote.
Each of the voting stations will have one of the new voter management devices. 3,290 registration staff have been recruited and trained for this registration weekend. Voting stations will be open from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. Vanessa Puna, SABC News, Cape Town.
In the Eastern Cape, more than 4,000 sites will be opened for people eligible to register for the November 1 local government elections.
A voter registration process occurring at the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. Precautions are in place to curb a possible spread of the virus.
We are expecting all voters to come wearing their masks, and no one will be allowed to get to a voting station without a mask. And when you reach our voting station tables inside the registration station, there will be 2 or 4 people that will be there as IEC staff to attend to you. They will be wearing their masks as well. At the door of a voting station, you will be requested to actually show your hands so that your hands can be sanitized.
However, there are mixed feelings on the ground about the process.
I'm really looking forward to it because it is giving us our power to say who we want in our wards and who we want to govern our municipalities.
We are fed up. We will not vote. Who can vote while living and breathing in sewer?
Those who are unable to visit the registration sites are urged to register through the online facility. Lubabalo Tata, SABC News, Eastern Cape.
In KwaZulu-Natal, the IEC says it is planning to work closely with law enforcement agencies to ensure a smooth voter registration weekend. The Commission says police will be monitoring volatile areas across the province. There are security concerns after 3 women were killed in Inanda, north of Durban, last weekend during an ANC political gathering.
The Independent Electoral Commission in the province says its all systems go ahead of the only voter registration weekend. Over 5.5 million people are registered to take part in the November poll. The Commission says the increase in voters has also necessitated an increased number of wards from 870 to 901, while over 4,000 voting stations will be opened during this weekend's registration. Security, though, remains a major concern in some parts of the province.
We have plans in place. The SAPS will be deploying members, although they are not having static deployments for the registration weekend compared to elections, but they will be roving around in communities during the registration weekend. But we have agreed that there will be static deployments in areas that has been deemed as hotspots in the province.
Strict COVID-19 protocols will be in place. A new voter management device will also be operational, replacing the old zip scanner.
We will be putting in place all the COVID health and safety protocols that we have been exercising in our voting station during by-elections, and we will expect that voters will also come in wearing a mask, because we cannot allow you in at the voting station without a mask.
The Commission says it is concerned by the low number of registered first-time voters. Of the over 1.1 million young people who are on the voters' roll, a little over 49,000 will be voting for the first time. This year's election will also see the highest number of registered independent candidates in the province, with over 230 already in the system. Simpiwe Makanya, SABC News, Durban.
Well, let's take a look at your tweets, comments, concerns. Now, and on standby is the Minister of Home Affairs as well as the IEC Commissioner. To the IEC, the first tweet reads, it is evident that most of the electorate doesn't understand the importance of their vote. What is the IEC doing to educate the electorate? Asks Batman. Mr. Mwepia?
You know, that's a very important question, Vuyo. There's a lot of work that will or is underway, both on social media, on radio, and on television. In fact, in every way possible. In the past, as you would know, we used to have people in communities that would undertake voter education. Because of the pandemic and the restrictions on gatherings, we have now taken this education on social media, on radio, and in limited instances, there will be people that take it to communities. But I think it is important not just to limit that work to ourselves. Communities have civil society organizations that are working with us extensively as well to educate. In these elections, registering is very, very important because it really deals with issues of service closest, to you, roads, water facilities, lighting, and things like that in your own community. It deals with public representatives that one can, in fact, interface with, persons that we ought to know, and we ought to be able to say to them, you are a representative, and these are the things that don't work for us. Would you please attend to them? It is very, very important, therefore, to participate in these elections, to know who your public representative will be after these elections, and indeed to follow up on them whenever there are services that one finds need to be taken into account, need to be improved, need to be dealt with, whatever those situations may be that voters may be facing in those communities.
The next question is for you, Minister. When is the Minister going to implement a system that actually works at the Department of Home Affairs? We stand for hours in queues. Rodeport is the worst, or at least listen to our proposals on how to improve the services in that department. Minister?
Yeah, indeed, that is the one which I said I'm scared of. So the listener is just echoing what I said earlier on when I spoke to you. When I said we are ready, the only problem that we are having is the downtime when the systems go down. And he is right, because whenever they go down, clients have to wait for a long time, sometimes in the sun. We're trying to work around the clock to improve the situation. If you noticed, some 3 weeks back, I appeared with the Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies, Minister Ntshavheni, in front of the Portfolio Committee on Home Affairs to talk about this issue and what CETA and the Minister are going to do to try and help us out of that situation. But for now, as I said, we have tried to deploy a lot of IT technicians to help wherever there are glitches, but that is a big problem. I am really conceding that the issue of system downtime is a big problem, and we are working around the clock to solve it once and for all.
Okay, a similar question from Zakele Pangisa, who says, what measures have you made to the community to get their ID documents, since all your offices are having long queues and so we can't access the offices? What are the plans?
We have given a list of offices that will be open. There will always also be mobile trucks, and we are making sure that in our offices, the queue to collect IDs is a different queue from all the others, because it's a very short process just to come in, put your finger there, and then collect your IDs. That's why we send them SMSs to say you are ready, come on this particular day. The problem is that sometimes the clients do not obey the date on which we ask them to come. They all come at the same time because maybe they had to catch a lift and do all that. But we are trying our best to make sure that when you collect your ID, it's a very short process. It's not like the first time when you come to apply for it.
Okay, perhaps not so much to do with the election, but it's a question to you nevertheless. Minister, the country has a shortage of resources, electricity, water, jobs, etc. Government needs population stats to plan for services. Does your department know how many illegal immigrants are benefiting from the system? Do you think this is illegal and a threat to South Africa?
Well, the fact that people are illegal, it means they are not known or they don't want to be known. Because in terms of the law, when you come to the country, for whatever reasons, you come through the ports of entry where you get registered. If you are running away from your country, you are coming to apply for asylum. We have got refugee reception centers around the country, one in Musina, the biggest one in Desmond Tutu here in Marabastad, one in Cape Metro, the other in Kabeja in the Eastern Cape, one in eThekwini. And all those are where you can go and register. The fact that people don't go there is because they know they came into the country illegally, and you can't know an illegal person. If we knew them, then they wouldn't be illegal because they will have been registered. So we do not know as Home Affairs how many illegal people are here. But to resolve the problem, you are aware that Parliament has just passed a law on Border Management Authority, so that we have got a special unit called a special institution, actually, not just a unit, a big institution called the Border Management Authority, which is headed by a commissioner, held by 2 deputy commissioners, a commissioner who is at the same level with the commissioner of police, which means we'll have a commissioner of police separate from a commissioner whose job is to manage borders. And the presidency is in the process of choosing that commissioner and 2 deputy commissioners to deal with this problem of illegality. We are also going to deploy border guards, especially in areas where it's problematic, because the borderline in South Africa, the land borderline actually, it is 4,772 kilometers. We have taken it and divided into 10 segments to find out where the problems are. The biggest segment is between us and Botswana at 1,500 kilometers, followed by Namibia, then Lesotho. The smallest segment is between us and Zimbabwe. It's about 240 kilometers, but is the most problematic. Then there's another segment between us and Mozambique at Mangusi in KZN, which is just 76 kilometers. That's where they still the stolen cars go through. And another segment between us and Eswatini and then between us and Mozambique. Those are the 4 segments where we are going to deploy, because people who come illegally in the country are coming through those segments. So we are putting together plans to deploy that in order to deal with this problem of illegality.
Okay. Mr. Mwepia, someone is asking, can they register to vote while they are outside of the country?
Well, they can do so on if they register online. They must do so before the close of business on Monday, because on Monday, the 20th of September, when we have a proclamation, it would then mean that the voters' roll that will be used in these elections will close. Any further registrations or registrations beyond Monday will then not count for the 1st of November elections. But voters can, in fact, register online. Our systems are available. As we speak, I have seen people that have been updating their details, or the numbers rather, increasing, which means that there are people who are doing so as we speak.
Okay, another question to you is if I have been voting since 1994, do I still have to register this weekend?
The answer is no, but we would want someone in that position to just check their details on the voters' roll. There are a number of people, not a very high number, but still a number of people that are registered on the voters' roll for whom we still do not have addresses. We would want them to update their details in instances where we do not have their addresses, to the extent that some voters may have been affected by the redetermination of ward boundaries that have taken place last year. Would also want to have them check to see if they have been affected and to re-register in their correct in the correct segment of the voters' roll, so that they are able to vote without hindrance in these elections.
Back to you, Minister. I guess people are taking this opportunity to ask other questions that aren't necessarily, voter registration related. But ZEP permits, any prospects of them being extended, seeing that critical skills permits take long due to COVID, asks Mtembu. Minister?
Well, ZEP permits have got nothing to do with critical skills, but we have responded to people many times who are making inquiries. They have to wait for the cabinet. The ZEP permits means Zimbabwe special permits are only expiring at the end of December this year. The cabinet is still going to take a decision what to do with them, and people must just wait. I can't answer that question now because I don't know what the cabinet is going to say. We have already developed a memo to propose to the cabinet on what to do, but I can't disclose because I don't know what the cabinet is going to finally conclude.
Speaking of which, let me take this opportunity to perhaps sneak in a question that is related to what you've just said, Minister. When are you publishing the new scarce skills list?
We were supposed to publish it today, Voyo.
And what happened?
Unfortunately, yes, we were supposed to have published today according to our plans. But unfortunately, one of the most important stakeholders who had to be consulted was Netleg. And about 2 weeks or 10 days ago, when my officials went to consult Netleg made the request that they need at least a month to finalize their inputs on the scarce skill list. We really pleaded with them that at least it must not go beyond the end of this month. We just praying that they come back to us. But as far as we are in Home Affairs, we are ready to publish it. We're just waiting for the input from NETLEC. We cannot ignore it because you are aware NETLEC is a very, very important stakeholder, taking into consideration that it consists of labor, business, and community.
Okay, Mr. Mwepia, Lundu is asking, my concern is making voting day a public holiday. Most people on the ground won't make any income on that day. Well, I don't know if you're able to answer that.
Vuyo, it's a very a tough one. We have, from experience, found that it is more enabling for people to come and vote when voting day is a holiday. We accept that not everyone, the country doesn't completely shut down. There will still be persons that work on the day. And so we have special voting days, 2 days of special voting, that is before election day, where on the one day, for persons that are unable to come to voting stations, we will visit them at home or at the places where they are confined. For persons that would say, I'm not going to be able to come to the voting station on election day, but I can come a day earlier. We will also be open at the office of the presiding officer, which is essentially a facility at the voting station or closest thereto. So it works better for all, or generally, when voting day is in fact declared a public holiday.
Phil Jacobs.
Well, can I come?
Yes, Minister. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, by the way, whether the voting day is a public holiday or not, it's not a decision of the IEC. It's just saying it will convenience them, but it's not their decision. It's a decision that rests in the hands of the president. And then once he decides in consultation with Home Affairs will then make the necessary paperwork to declare the holiday. All I wanted to clarify is that it's the president who will decide whether that day is a holiday or not. And of course, IEC will be happy if it's a holiday, but you do not have the power to declare it as such. It's a presidential function.
Thanks for clarifying that. A question to you, Minister, from Phil Jacobs. I just received a message from Home Affairs saying my ID card is ready for collection, but I didn't apply for a new ID. How is that possible?
Well, I think, Vuyo, you must take details from him. I wouldn't know exactly what has happened. We've been working around it. Every time you apply for an ID, we do send you an SMS on the cell phone number that you have given us. It's possible that something happens with those phone numbers, cell phone numbers, that the message went to a wrong person. But over the past few days, we've been resending SMSs because the initial SMSs we sent, people did not come to collect. That's why we still have 370,000 IDs uncollected. So we resend them. If there's a mistake from Home Affairs, please give us the details of that client, or he might have given his number, cell number to somebody else, or he might have abandoned it, somebody else is using it. But we usually send the message to the cell number of the applicant of that particular ID.
Mr. Mwepia, Mbali Mabe fears that voting day may just be a super spreader event. Perhaps you may want to go back to the protocols that will be in place on the day.
I think it is very important for us to state that we are doing everything in our power to ensure that voting stations are safe spaces for persons to come and and vote. Voting is indeed an important right in our constitution. We take that very seriously. We will have on voting day, just as we will have tomorrow for registration, we will have people who will ensure social distancing at every registration station tomorrow and Sunday, as well as on voting day. We'll also have all of our staff members, wearing their personal protective equipment or clothing. They will sanitize people. They will carry sanitizers. They will be masked, and they will ask for people to be masked as well. And whatever they do or is passed on will in fact be sanitized, and voters can rest assured that whatever measure, social distancing or the non-pharmaceutical measures that are recommended, every one of our 23,151 registration stations will in fact apply, and they will apply them very strictly. So we want to encourage Mbali to come to see that for themselves, and to the extent that there may be issues they want to raise, I'm sure they will find our trained staff friendly to engage in the issues of concern that they may have.
Someone who is in Tanzania but who says they will be home on voting day is asking, is there an online link I can just go to, click on the link, and I'm registered?
Yes, there is a link, but it doesn't work as simple as that. Get onto our website. Look at online registration. It's very easy to see it as you get on there, and you will find a step-by-step guideline that will help you to do that. And once you have done so, you will receive a confirmation message indicating that your application was successful or not successful. We like it when your application is successful. To the extent that there may be challenges or there might be something you need, the system will in fact inform you what you need to do. We are available to take your calls. We have a call center or a contact center, as we call it. It's available on toll-free on 0800 11 8000. You can do so also online, and you will get assistance from us.
Any final word from you, Minister?
Well, Vuyo, as far as you have concerned, it's all systems go. We are ready. Our Home Affairs will be opened, and we have already deployed several senior officials to different provinces. I also want to talk to people of Gauteng who have got the highest number of uncollected IDs in the whole country, that the banks have also come to the party. They really are going to be helpful. They are going to open 12 banks are going to be open for collection of IDs or for application of IDs. And I think it's important to mention them because this is important. It will be the Absa Bank in Sandton, the Net Bank in Rivonia, the Invest Bank in Sandton, the Net Bank in Lakeview, the FNB Bank in the Clan, the FNB Merchant Bank in Rivonia, Standard Bank in Kilani Mall, FNB Life in Centurion, Absa Life in Centurion, Standard Bank Life in Centurion, Net Bank in Arcadia, FNB in the Groove, and also actually Investec and Sandton and Net Bank Lakeview are also actually going to be open on Sunday. They said as long as all the IEC offices are still open, they will also be open. So Home Affairs offices will open from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening, same as the banks, because they said they will follow up what IEC is doing. Unfortunately for the banks, it's only 2 the Investec, Santen and Nedbank Lakeview, which will also follow that on Sunday. Otherwise, all the others will only be on Saturday.
Okay. Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, Mr. Musutu Merba, thanks to both of you for your time this evening.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, let's take a look now at what some political parties were up to today. The ANC has convened a National Executive Committee meeting to finalize the theme for its 2021 local government elections campaign. The governing party's much anticipated manifesto launch is scheduled to take place in Tshwane on the 27th of September.
The President of the African National Congress, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, who is the face of our campaign. I'm sure when we're done with the NEC on Friday, we will be able to also unveil our message. That process, the head of elections, together with relevant comrades from the policy unit, Comrade Jeff, who are driving our manifesto process, guided by science, will be able to then pronounce ourselves.
The IFP in KwaZulu-Natal says it's certain of victory in the eThekwini municipality. The party's campaign is focused on service delivery and eradicating corruption.
eThekwini municipality has 222 seats. 10 are occupied by IFP councillors. The party is convinced that the number of its councillors in the metro will increase. The IFP introduced its candidates for the position of councillors. It says the campaign is focused on service delivery.
As we are campaigning, we need to show the ruling party that by choosing a party with values that are deeply in our vision, mission, and offer as a party to the voters of the metro, when we say you can trust us, we mean it, based on our track record of service delivery. As the IFP, we mean what we say and we do what we offer to deliver to our people. The IFP means business. We are here to showcase our candidates, that they are ready and they are geared towards working for the people of this metro.
The candidates have vowed to hit the ground running.
Make sure that the youth have jobs, even though some of the youth is not that educated, as much as educated as others. But we also deserve to have jobs because we are the future of South Africa.
We as the IFP are trying to create job opportunities for them so that when they become involved, they will not be on drugs anymore. They will not be focusing on drugs and alcohol because their time will be consumed in other ventures, other avenues.
The IFP is expected to launch its election manifesto towards the end of this month. Bongani Gema, SABC News, Durban.
Well, in case you're wondering why your leaders or favorite leaders might be this weekend, well, let's tell you about those we know. The ANC president, Cyril Ramaphosa, will be in Johannesburg doing door-to-door. The DA's John Steenhuisen will be in Kwalanga, Cape Town. Julius Malema of the EFF will be in KwaMashu, in Phoenix, Lamontville, KwaDambuza. All those areas are, of course, in KwaZulu-Natal. The IFP's Velenkosini Hlabisa will be in the Durban Metro. And if you are looking for Peter Groenewald of the Freedom Front Plus, he'll be in Klerksdorp. The ACDP's Kenneth Meshwe will be in West Dean in Johannesburg. The UDM's Bantu Olomisa will be in Umtata and Kukumbu. Vuyolethu Zungula of the ATM will be in Butterworth. Goods, Patricia Delil will be in Mitchell's Plain and in Atlantis. Kenan Mleche of the NFP will be in Umlazi. We couldn't establish where the AIC's president will be, but COPE's deputy President William Adisha will be in Rustenburg, while the PAC's Mzwanele Nyonzo will be in Kwalanga in Cape Town. Al Jamal's Khanif Hendricks will be in Wynberg in Cape Town. Those are the people we know about. And that's all we had for you this evening. Do go out there and register. Have a great weekend.